for number 13, select all. So circle the word all. Select all of the expressions below that are equivalent. So it does not have to be in the most reduced form. It doesn't have to be in the factored form that we just went over in the previous problems. Let's first by going over how do we factor this. So, all right, I can both take out x to the 16 out of both terms. You're left with 16 minus 25y to the 36. Because 16 and 25 break down, and 36 can be split evenly, you can go forward and go 4 in front, 4 in front, 5 in back, 5 in back. One's positive and one's negative, and 36 splits evenly into 18. Does this answer exist? H. Okay. Now the rest of them, you are either going to foil it on paper, or just use some of the processes you've learned to find out if you foil this, would it equal this? Let's do this one together. Do you agree that'd be, what's 8 times 8? Do I want 64? What's 8 times 8? 64. 8 times 8. Do you understand how I'm able to easily cancel those out? Okay, here, 4 times 4 is, and you add, when you multiply these terms, you add the exponents of the like bases, which in this case would be x to the 8 and x to the 8. You'd end up with 16, x to the 16. Right? Is that what we have so far? Okay, let's just multiply the backs. We'll worry about the inside and the outside of the foiling later. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25, x to the 16, y to the 36. Now I know I still need to take care of other things, but do I have that as a final answer? No, what does it need to be? Negative, cross it out. Now what's the only difference between D and E? One's positive and one is? So let's start off with what we know. If we multiply the two fronts, we've already determined that is going to be 16, x to the 16. In the back this time, you end up with negative 25, x to the 16, y to the 36. You can't forget about doing the insides and the outsides. If you're like, what is she talking about? Remember FOIL is F-O-I-L? So the O for the outsides. Look at those two. And now I want you to imagine multiplying these two. Don't do anything on paper. What would happen when you multiply these two and then you multiply these two? They cancel out. What is this answer? Positive 20, x to the 16th, y to the 18th. What is this answer? Negative 20, x to the 16th, y to the 18th. Is this answer right here that I'm circling, is this what we have up above? Yes. Okay, there's one answer. Automatically, I know the answer cannot be F, because if I take 4 times 4, yes, I get 16, but how many x's do you have in front? 4 and 4 is 8, and you need 16. Again, 4 times 4 is 16, but you'd have x to the 8th. You need x to the 16th. Okay, with your partner right now, I would like you to read 14 and work your way through it using some of the common sense math you know about. Ready, get set, begin. I'm going to stop you after 3 minutes. Okay, with 6 minutes left, I'd like to go through this with you. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Stop what you're doing, follow along with me. Oftentimes, it is very common that students have a way to approach a problem that is faster than the way I do it. So, if you see a way that I'm doing it and you're like, oh, I know a faster way to think about eliminating A, for instance, please just share it with me. So when I look here, I go quickly and I go, okay, 64, x to the fourth, great. Y to the fourth, W to the fourth, great. But here's the problem. I need a negative, and do you see how these two would make a positive?
Yeah.
Okay, there's another reason that they cancel out too, because they wouldn't eliminate the middle terms, but there we go. Next one. So I'm going to put W to the fourth, and now if you went through and you FOILed this, you'd get 64, and then just like I taught you with the previous problem, the outsides and the insides are going to cancel because they're the exact same factors, just one's positive, one's negative. If you're still confused, you'd have negative 8y to the fourth and positive 8y to the fourth to cancel. So you would not have a middle term. When you multiply the backs, you end up with a negative y to the, add the exponents, y to the 8th. Do we want a final answer of y to the 8th? Here we have 64 y to the fourth, great. In the back we have negative y to the fourth, good, and w to the fourth, and it's negative, but here's the problem. There's no middle term here. Do these middle terms cancel out? Are they exactly the same things, just different signs? Then they will not cancel out, we cross it out. If you distribute the y here, you'd have 64y to the fourth. That's not what we have w's. Okay? We have 64y to the fourth, wonderful. We have negative y to the fourth, w to the fourth, wonderful, that's good. And now these two, do the insides and the outsides cancel?
Yeah.
And we would not have a middle term then, and we don't want a middle term. So is this an answer?
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave the w to the fourth out front. And let's look at this. We have 64, great. And we have negative y to the fourth, w to the fourth. Do the outsides and the insides cancel here? Are they the exact same thing with different signs? Yes. You have negative 8y squared, w squared, and positive 8y squared, w squared. They cancel. Now when I distribute this y to the fourth, do I end up with this? 64y to the fourth minus, do I end up with y to the fourth, w to the fourth? No. How many w's do you get in the back term? 8, and we only want 4. Moving on to G, H, I, and J. I can tell right off the bat this isn't going to work because these are not the same, but let's go through it anyways. So I'd have 64 w squared, okay, that's good. And I would have negative y to the fourth, w to the fourth, great. But again, please look, make sure your partner understands because it's difficult to initially learn. Make sure they understand how when you look here, the insides and the outsides will not cancel when you multiply. One is a negative 4, one is a positive 16. Will not cancel. You can't have a middle term because there's no middle terms in the original expression. Same thing here. We don't have the exact same parentheses, just with different signs. So I know it's not going to work, but let's show anyways. Here's a 64, w to the fourth, great. Here's a, negative times negative is a, we don't have a positive. Here's 64 w to the fourth, great. And here is minus, when I distribute, I have w to the fourth and y to the fourth. Is that up there? Circle it. It's the same thing. If you distribute the y to the fourth, you end up with this. Is this the exact same thing that I have over here? It is the exact same. Do you see how the only difference is I switched the y's and the w's? So let's show how this works. I have 8 w to the fourth, wonderful. And then that's in the front. In the back, I have minus w to the fourth and y to the fourth. The order you write them does not matter, as long as you have the same variables with the correct amount of exponents. Again, if you look at the insides and if you look at the outsides, they will cancel out. And if you're still wondering why do we want them to cancel out, because our original expression has no middle term. So for this particular problem, there are 4 unique answers.